Update. Am I the a-hole for confessing to my wife that she's torturing me after she got assaulted? Original post. I'm 25 male, been married to my wife, 26 female for 4 years. We've been dating since we were teens. We are childhood friends. At this point, we are together for like a decade. This all started a month ago. I went on to my company trip. My boss urged me to attend a trip because it will help me learn more, and it's a golden opportunity for me. So I told my wife and she said yes, I should go. It's just for a week. A few days before my departure, my wife said she's going to attend a party hosted by her friends. I said she shouldn't attend. She got mad and asked me why I'm restricting her. You see, my wife has become quite an alcoholic in past few months. It has become a problem for both of us. So I said if you drink too much, I won't be around to help her. She kept saying she will be fine, but I was adamant. And finally, she said she won't attend and I trusted her. I went with my boss and after 3 days, my wife called me. I couldn't pick her call, but when I checked my phone, I saw so many calls and texts from her. And when I did, I immediately called her. She kept yelling at me and said, "Come back right now, come back right now." I panicked as well, and I cut my trip short and went back to her. When I arrived, she hugged me like never before and kept crying and crying. It took a long time, but she told me she was violated. I asked her about the details, and she told me she was ganged up on by a bunch of guys after she got drunk. Till this day, I don't know who these guys are. I asked her multiple times, but she just said she doesn't want to tell me. I asked her to press charges, and she said no, that it will ruin her life even more. This is going on for a month now, but a week ago she went full-on crazy mode. She's basically glued to me. Even during shower or bathroom, I see her everywhere. She went as far as locked our house from the inside. I talked to my boss and explained, and he gave me some time to fix it all. Yesterday, I told her she's going too far. She had locked me and herself in our bedroom and didn't let me go anywhere. When I asked her why she is doing this, she said she's scared that I will abandon her. She hugs me so tight, even I feel uncomfortable. And when I had enough, I said that she's torturing me. You don't tell me anything. I'm trying to help you, but you don't care. After I said this, she's crying nonstop. And if this goes on, it's going to cost me my job. I won't even be able to feed myself. Forget about feeding her. But the way she is, I think I went too far. Did I say something I shouldn't have? I don't understand anything at this point. Now for the top comments before reading the update. This is way above our pay grade. You calling the local assault hotline would get you in touch with resources that should be applied to both you and your wife. And it wouldn't require reporting it to authorities. You can't fix this yourselves. The dude needs to get that poor woman to a doctor and a therapist pronto. From the recent onset of her alcohol issues, this incident is just the latest. I agree, she is drinking out of nowhere for a reason. I think there is something more than what just happened on his trip. The fact that she won't tell him who is also concerning. She was at a friend's house. I hope it wasn't any of the husbands. You both need counseling. Badly. You need to be prepared for any details that come out. No police, no reports. I don't want to tell you who did it? It doesn't sound good. You think it was family members? Or some people powerful in town / related to the police? Maybe mutual friends are his. It can be anything. Have you talked to a single person who was at a party? Because I'm sorry, but a lot of this doesn't make sense. She was at her friend's house. She got banged on, and not one of her friends had reached out or said anything? Was more likely a gang rape at a party or cheating at a party? Surprised this doesn't have more upvotes. She cheated on bro and is spiraling with the guilt. The not wanting to report it, the not saying who it was, etc. is all just covering for the if I call the cops, they'll say it was consensual and my husband will know I cheated. Now for the update 3 weeks later. I posted my situation last month, and if anyone just wants the LDR, when I went on a trip, she went to a party where she got drunk and she had alcohol problem. I urged her to not go because I won't be there to take care of her, but she called me controlling and went anyway. And while I was on my trip, she called me back urgently and told me she got violated by a bunch of guys. So I'm posting again because I want advice. It turns out the party host was a guy she was having an affair with for the past 5 months. She revealed this all information in our couples counseling. She's undergoing individual counseling, psychology treatment for her trauma, and treatment for her severe alcohol problem. What she said in counseling was that she met a guy at a bar and she was lured by his charm, and they would make out and do other things. But when she went to his party, he invited a bunch of guys she never saw, and they did things to her. I don't want to speak about it or explain. And what she told me without a counselor is that she's coming clean and doesn't want anything to do with him or anyone. She realized that all other men just wants to exploit her vulnerability, and I'm the only man that truly cares for her. And she would never ever look at any other man, only me. We had a family meeting where my parents and siblings and hers came over at my house, and they said that my wife made a mistake and is going through a very tough time. She has changed and learned from her mistake, and I am a great man for taking care of my wife, and I should never think about divorce. I was thinking about divorce, and I only shared this with my colleague who has become my best friend over time. And after I vented, and I'm embarrassed to say that I cried in front of her, she said it's best for me to live alone my whole life than living with her. I ask strangers here for advice, like what should I do? Should I accept her because she changed her ways and take care of her, or just divorce and move on? She was having an affair for 5 months. She did not willingly tell you due to guilt or anything. She had to come clean because something awful happened. Otherwise, you still probably wouldn't know she was cheating. Doesn't seem like she cares about you much, except for what you can do for her. She obviously makes bad decisions, but luckily she has a supportive family. Let them take the lead here while you gently back out. You don't need this, unless you want to be tethered to a cheating alcoholic with emotional issues for the rest of your youth and potentially life. Not the a-hole. This, divorce. She cheated, plain and simple. If there was no cheating and a bad situation still happened to her, that would be an entirely different story. But that's not what happened. It is horrible something terrible happened to her, but that doesn't dissolve the cheating. Her mental and emotional health does not trump yours. Why should you stay with somebody who doesn't respect you? She changed her ways? No. Pretty clearly not, since she has recruited both sides of the family to help with manipulating him to stay with her. That's so bad it's scary. I would leave her and take at least a long break from all of them. You're only 25 years old. You are too young to stay in a toxic marriage with a toxic person. People restart their lives at a much older age. You don't have to be anyone's psychological support, crying wall, caregiver, etc., especially if she cheated on you. I understand you have no children. Focus on your future and yourself. Get yourself out of this mess. 25 is so young. There is so much time to meet someone that you will click with and love you back. You can meet people through work, running club, book clubs, sisters of your friends, or college classes. Ask a girl to grab a coffee on Saturday morning. Ask a girl to go see a movie. Get out and live your just starting life. Cut out all these toxic in-laws and toxic wife. OP is certainly young and able to rebuild once he leaves, but that is if he leaves. All his comments reveal that he wants internet strangers to validate his bad decision to stay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to fully support my wife financially? Original post. I, 50 male, and my wife, 43 female, have been together for 7 years, married for 18 months. No kids on either side. Our relationship has generally gone well. We're physically compatible and enjoy each other's company. Honestly, the conversation is not super deep. We mostly have general positive but surface-level interactions. From the start of our relationship, I've paid most of our joint expenses, dinners and vacations, and we both moved into a house I owned 4 years ago. That wasn't a big problem for me. I earn well and she was also making just over 6 figures and was able to buy herself what she wanted. She has a bit of fake clothes habit, but it doesn't really bother me. Over the last year, a few things changed in our relationship. Firstly, my wife left her job. She went out on leave but didn't return. Then we went on vacation, and while on vacation I had a serious medical issue, which meant we had to cut the vacation short. I spent 6 weeks in and out of hospital. My wife was supportive, like driving me to and from appointments, but didn't really engage with what I was going through. A few months after that, I had pretty much recovered. At that point, my mother passed away. I grew up outside the US, so went back to my family for the funeral. While I was with my family, my wife asked me if I'd consider an open relationship. To be honest, the medical issues had negatively impacted our intimate life. I felt the timing was inappropriate and my wife apologized. I came back from the funeral a couple of weeks later and went back to work, but things felt tense. Last week, my wife told me she was running out of money. This was the first time she'd mentioned any money issues. We've never had a joint bank account, but she is insisting that we open one, and I put my salary into it. We've never discussed that before either. I told her that I didn't feel very emotionally supported in the relationship, and I feel blindsided by what I saw as an ultimatum. She responded that maybe we should separate if I'm not going to step up and fully support her. Am I the a-hole for refusing? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. As an adult in an adult relationship, it's pretty crazy to expect someone you met at age 36 to support you without some kind of trade-off. No kids, I assume, so what she's doing all day? She sounds like she's pretty clearly said, I want to sleep with other people, and if you don't support me financially, we might as well separate. She is an aspiring actor. She's been in a few shows, but they pay little to nothing and takes up lots of time. Yeah, that is how it comes across to me as well. Not the a-hole, but your relationship sounds less about love and more about convenience. Are you together just so you are not alone? The marriage is young and may not be hard to get out of, but I wouldn't stay in such a relationship of what sounds like one of those if we haven't found love by X age, let's get married kind of situations. If she's ready to separate, then maybe it is time to dip out. This hurt to hear, probably because it's truer than I'd like it to be. I don't like being alone. At some point, I looked at all the people I dated and went, this is pretty good all things considered. But pretty good, not great or love of my life. She told you she wanted to sleep with other people when you went to bury your mother. Is being alone worse than that? Sigh, you are right, of course. But sometimes when I hear statements like this, it's like reading about people with terrible bosses who stick out their awful jobs because they don't have any financial cushion. 2 weeks without a paycheck and they're halfway to homeless. This is terrifying for them, and so they stick in this suboptimal situation, even though, in theory at least, there are many better jobs. I was adopted at birth. My adoptive mother, who recently died, was a narcissist who used me. I was smart, and she showed me off to her friends, which I hated. I had no friends of my own. Generally, my childhood sucked. I've made a much better run of my adulthood. Good jobs, my own friends, etc. But my relationship cushion is still thin despite 20 years of therapy. It doesn't take much for me to think maybe nobody actually loves me. I'm not looking for pity. But be aware that just because something seems like an obvious thing to do doesn't always make it easy. That is incredibly insightful and self-aware. Get back in the dating pool. Your friends love you. Girlfriend can be a good romantic companions, even if there isn't deep love there. You deserve better than what you have. Mini update. Thanks to everyone who commented. It's honestly pretty sobering and has forced me to confront some things about my marriage, but also about myself that aren't particularly pretty. We're sleeping apart tonight and I'm going to bed. Now for the full update. Well, it's been quite a whirlwind of a week. After we had the initial discussion, we didn't talk for almost a day. Then we came back with a mutual expression of WTF just happened in our faces and stared blankly at each other. I suggested that we take a time out to write down what was on our minds, that we could have each other read it, and that would be the basis for a more in-depth conversation. So we spent the day doing that. Boy, it did not go well. I wrote about how I perceived she was emotionally absent while I was sick. She really didn't understand what I meant, and I tried to explain, sometimes I just need someone to talk to. Her response was basically, all you want to do is talk, and I felt that was really cold. What she wrote was basically a diatribe, well, that's how it felt to me, about my legal obligation to support her. At one point, she said our marriage, quotes were hers, and I felt particularly hurt by that description. It was clear that we weren't on the same page, or even in the same book, about what the problems were. My wife then suggested counseling, and I agreed. Her therapist knows a marriage counselor. She sent us some intake forms, which ask us to rate our satisfaction with the marriage and the accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement of our partners. It was a miserable exercise, filling out the form and realizing just how low my ratings were. So that evening, I sat my wife down and said, "I scored is really low." She asked, "Should we bother talking more?" I said, "No, I don't think this is going to work." She agreed pretty quickly and we canceled our appointment with a marriage counselor. We have an appointment with a divorce lawyer later this week. I'm probably going to owe spousal support. I'm not thrilled about that, but it's only money and I'll get over it. My wife understands she'll need to move out and started packing. How do I feel about this? Obviously, it's a big shock. At the same time, thanks for every comment on a previous post. It's clearly the right thing to do. There was nothing here worth saving. If she's making six-figure salary and you were only married 18 months, I doubt you'll have to pay support. She quit working and has drained whatever savings she had through her career years. I bet she either has a gambling issue or already has another sucker in the hook. She can get another job. I agree, but still could lead to the judge taking her side rather than his. My understanding is that this is just a calculator. The past year's income and expenses from both parties are plugged in and out comes a number. This is for temporary spousal support at least. I don't think there will be long-term support due to the marriage being short. For the spousal support, maybe the fact that she decided to quit her job could have an impact on the amount of support you owe. Yeah, plus it's not like it has been years since she left the job. I'm sure with a little effort, she could get a similar job in the field. Her resume is not stale. From what I understand, spousal support is based on the past year of marriage, when she wasn't working. Yay. It is half the length of the marriage. So it's not forever, but it doesn't matter why she quit her job. It's strict community property where I live. Get your own lawyer. How long has she been out of work? She left her job at her own volition, and if she hadn't been out that long, you will not owe support with a half-decent lawyer. I find spousal support to be such an interesting concept. It doesn't exist in my country, and I admittedly know little of the concept. But I think it probably should be applicable where someone has, say, stayed home with the children so that the other could earn a living, and so has missed out on a career and would likely struggle, which could keep people with no career prospects in bad situations. If me and my partner split, he would be much worse off than me because he's worked part-time jobs to cover childcare whilst I studied and worked. I think it's fair that he shouldn't be left high and dry after his sacrifices for our family, even if we don't work out. But when you've got access to a high-paying job like OP's wife and have no children or reason not to work, I find it really baffling.